All right, a happy Sunday evening. Hopefully, everyone is doing great out there. We are going to do an off-season video on Denver. This is actually the second video we did. We did one earlier, and something happened with the sound, so we are going to do a take two. It actually works out better because we got some post-game sound from Jokic and Gordon and their interim head coach, David Adelman, who hopefully we'll get the interim tag lifted off, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. I think there's a short term and there's a big outlook approach here. We originally wrote this article in the Clippers series, certainly when Denver was down or close to facing elimination here. 3-2 down, or I think 3-2 down in that series, or 3-3. I'm sorry, and then they facing elimination. Of course, they win, and we wrote and tweaked some things when they went down 3-2, and we updated a little bit before or during the game here because the intro I just didn't feel it wasn't right how it's sat. The original intro was basically deja vu. Here we go, game 7, we lose again, second round, blah, blah, blah. And based on the toughness of this group, and I know they got their doors blown off in game 7, and toughness of this group, Aaron Gordon playing with it, basically probably a pulled hamstring, and getting off to a 24-10 start, and basically just getting Oklahoma City comes at you in waves, and the wave basically overtook you. We did tweak this a little bit here. We were a little more positive with the intro. And that is the reason why it says, hey, if you want to be the pessimist, you can go out and say, hey, second round. It's amazing. I try not to read what social media says, but it's like, hey, the window is closed and this is it. We're over, blah, blah, blah. Blow up the team. And I always think like, well, there's only 450 players in the NBA. Like, what are you blowing up here? You're not trading Jokic. You're not trading Gordon, and Jamal Murray is about to enter year 1 of a $229 million extension. And we're going to talk about some of these pieces here in a minute. Short term, it was a successful season. I know it's hard to say that when you have a top 2 player, a generational player, and you have to take advantage of it every year, at least trying to win a championship here. And Jokic was right. He asked him, like, do you think that this team can win a championship? And he said, well, no, because we lost in the second round. So obviously, like, change is needed here. And when you look at as far as where Denver is heading, it is interesting because we are in a little bit of a deja vu because they're basically in the identical same spot they were a year ago. Of course, it wasn't in devastating fashion, losing at game 7 up, I don't even know, 20 points to Minnesota at home. But you are still eliminated from the second round, and you are looking at a roster that it has 82% of their payrolls tied up in 4 players with Jokic, Murray, Gordon, and Porter Jr. You are in the same basically financial spot without a draft pick and without a second round pick that you were a year ago, based on where you are financially, based on where you are with your younger players, and we're going to talk about that in a minute here. When you look at let me just scroll up in here. There's a couple things that are going to happen in this offseason. The first is Denver should lift the interim tag off David Adelman's from being an interim to head coach. I thought he's done enough with this group. He's kept his team together. He got him out of the first round, and you got to a game 7 against a 68-win team. That's the first step. The second step is figuring out who's running basketball operations. That's a huge step in this process. You keep it in-house. They promoted Ben Tenzer to the interim GM. He's been there a long, long time. You bring someone from the outside. It gets a little dicey when you do that, certainly when you have certainly when you have Jokic on your roster. So that's step 1, head coach. Step 2, who's running basketball operations. Those are your 2 most important things. So here's where you're heading into the offseason here. You have 13 players under contract. Your true free agents are DeAndre Jordan and Vlatko Konkar. You have a player option on Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric, who I am anticipating will opt in. Just pulling up their article, will opt into his contract. So that's where you're looking at it. You're roughly 4.7. Your first apron team, you are 7.1 below the second apron team. You have the tax mid-level exception, 5.7. It's basically the same resource that you had for Saric that you signed. You will be pressed up against the second apron. If you use the tax mid-level, you are hard capped at the second apron. What it means to be in the first apron here, basically you are not allowed to use more than 100% of the traded player exception. You can't take back more money in a salary. So if you traded Porter Jr. in a trade, and we're going to talk about him in a minute, you can't take back a $40 million player. So that's what happens with the first apron restrictions here. Certainly their depth is going to be at a question again. And Jokic mentioned that the teams that are still live, and I know New York, we can probably throw to the side. You need 8 good players when you get into the playoffs. You need 5, certainly 5 starters and 3 guys. When you look at Indiana, when you look at Minnesota, Alexander Walker, Reed, DiVincenzo, that gets you your quality depth. What Denver is attempting to do, and what they've been attempting to do the last 2 years, is extremely, extremely difficult. When you try to thread the needle with a veteran-laden starting 5, and I know we put Christian Brown in there and we take KCP out, you are relying heavily on Peyton Watson and Julian Strouder and Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, Zeke Naji, and you need 3 of those guys to play a contributing role. There were moments, but not consistent enough. Our stats and information group do a terrific job feeding us with information. Matt Williams, Michael Schwartz, that group there. I asked them, I think after Oklahoma City went up 3-2 in this series, to give me some numbers on their minutes. The Nuggets had the top 4 players, Jokic, Murray, Gordon, and Brown, in total minutes played in the postseason. I know it's a little bit skewed because certainly some teams advance further, but I do think it's an indication as far as where they are and how many minutes. The starters averaged 94 points in the regular season, and the most by any team since the 1986-87 season, 86-87. I believe that is the Boston Celtics. You need help. You need help with the depth. It is going to be a challenge because are you willing to parlay the younger players that are on controllable contracts when you're an apron team and your resources are limited and you have no first and second round pick this year? It presents a big problem if you miss out on your draft picks here. You can say you hit on Christian Brown. The jury is still out on Watson and Strouder. Pickett had some decent moments. Hunter Tyson, certainly another player there. So that is going to be a priority. When you get into, we talked about their finances. If you are a repeater tax team, you're on path to pay the highest tax penalty in franchise history. Your front office priority, Jokic extension eligible, 3 for $212 million. I would expect that would be a no-brainer. You can start negotiating with him once the NBA finals are over. First year of the extension is almost $66 million. That replaces the player option. It starts in 27-28 and goes through the 29-30 season. We don't need to go through his stats. Second priority is determining if roster improvement comes via trade rather than internal development. They've got 1 first-round pick in 31 or 32. Can't trade both. Their lone tangible asset is Michael Porter Jr. Career high 18 points, 38 and 41 million he's left on his contract. We'll see what happens with if he'll need surgery as far as with his shoulder. Extension candidate to watch, Christian Brown certainly has helped himself. You can check the boxes off. He should get paid. What does getting paid mean? Jalen Suggs was 5 for 150. I would think it would be higher than that based on where the cap is going. But career high in minutes, and started 77 to 79 games, third year in a row playing 75 plus. Durability, played all 82. Joined Dyson Daniels as the only player in the past 2 years to increase their scoring average by more than 8 points. Christian Brown will get paid. He is a terrific player, and he fits what you're trying to do. I think the number is at least $30 million per year. Other extension candidates: Porter, Tyson, Pickett, and Watson. Your to-do list is addressing the non-Jokic minutes, of course. They were minus 24 going into game 7. I'm sure it's going to be higher. Your picks are not great. You rank in the bottom in draft assets. You have 1 second-round pick available, and that's in 2032. As I said, you owe Orlando your pick this year. You have no second. You have a pick in 26, but you owe Oklahoma City a top 5 protected first in 27. If it's conveyed, you will send Oklahoma City another first in 2029, top 5 protected. And that is the reason why the first pick you can trade is in 31 or 32. It's 2 years after the second Oklahoma City pick is conveyed. So that is a kind of a nutshell as far as where you are in Denver. Replacing the interim tag, finding out clarity at who's in charge of basketball operations. Depth, Jokic extension, Brown extension, dancing around the second apron with limited resources, exploring possibly the trade market if it is Porter Jr. It's hard to see where Jamal Murray, that 4 for 229 is a big number here. But you do have to get better. Short term, it was a successful season. Long term, you have to maximize, as I've said with Giannis and all these other great players, you have to maximize the Jokic window to compete for a championship.